I will not work until all federal troops have been removed from the occupied cities of the United States. Instead, I'll use my working and waking hours to put this information into something cohesive so that it can be shared. People have asked me, what do you hope to accomplish from this? And what I tell them is that I want to serve as a fire alarm. I want other people to recognize that this is not something that we should just go along with as normal. If you say that you recognize this as a life or death situation, but you're still doing things as normal, I don't think you actually believe it is a life or death situation.
So I just want to say, I feel good about the Republican Party. I feel good about where we're going as a nation. We're killing all the right people and we're cutting your taxes.
Now, and since Donald Trump returned to the White House in January, more than 200,000 immigrants have been arrested. It's fueled unrest in major American cities over concerns about the conditions people are being held in. Those worries have been heightened by the deaths of at least 16 people in detention centres.
A final goodbye for a man who died after being detained in Donald Trump's immigration raids. The tears of a mother who says the US government has taken a piece of her heart away. Her son Ishmael was being held at an immigration detention centre when he fell ill. His condition was flagged as potentially life-threatening. He was treated by medics, then returned to his cell. 3 days later, Ishmael was dead, aged 39. His death raises questions about the conditions inside the centre he was held, and whether a sudden surge of immigrants being detained by this administration has left the system stretched beyond breaking point. Ishmael was Lucia's first child. They spoke regularly while he was detained. She says that the final time they spoke, he had a persistent fever. He said they were not listening to him, she tells me. He was scheduled to have surgery to remove an abscess in hospital, but the family was never told.
I feel like just any day he could come home, but I know he's not.
His brother Jose says they learned of Ishmael's death from police.
They're the ones that notified us that he had passed. We were not even aware that he was in the hospital or even had a scheduled surgery.
Have you heard this idea of the zip code in which you were raised is the primary indicator of where you'll probably end up in life? If you were to ask me where I was from, I'd probably say Cincinnati. But more specifically, I would say Goshen, Ohio. I was the only child of a single teenage mom in rural Ohio. A low-income household today in Goshen earns $30,000. My yearly income was double that. By all accounts, I am way outpacing my peers. So when I look at these statistics, my first thought isn't, wahoo, I'm doing so good. It's, why am I doing so much better than so many others who were born into similar circumstances? And was it worth it?
Eddie Asbury donated a bunch of coal.
Did he?
He sure did. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he is. That's who I always bought my coat from.
Yeah.
Up at Big Creek.
You know, he donated.
I was sitting on the couch trying to figure out, my husband's 88 years old and he can't hardly walk. And I thought, how am I going to get him out of here? I had water in the back, I had water in the front, I had water here, I had water all the way down. I said, how am I going to save him? Well, all at once somebody hollered, you ready to go? Dustin Bishop. He come through the mountain and come and got me and my husband, or we would have died. We would have. And it took 5 hours to get us through that mountain. But we're here, you know. Franklin Mullins and Dustin Bishop. And he heard it come on when I was trying to get a hold of 911, and they said they couldn't help me. He was at a ball game at Baileysville, and he called his mommy. He said, "I'm going to save him. I'll go through hell and high water." And believe me, he did. If you've seen Bradshaw, that's the way he come.
I don't want to be someone who finds success and pulls the ladder up from behind them. I also don't want to fail to extend that ladder to those coming up behind me. And I don't want to just extend a ladder. I want to take what I've learned and I want to go back down there and I want to say, hey, I learned some stuff. Let's build some stairs. Instead of having to wait for someone to lower a ladder, I want to build stairs. And maybe in another situation, another context, I could have continued as normal. In fact, that's what I was doing for the past year, was saying, well, I guess I'm going to keep doing my desk job, and I'm just really going to focus on mutual aid or nonprofits or community service work on my downtime. And yeah, that's a great strategy for 10 years ago. But right now, the house is on fire.
Nearly 800 of America's top military leaders were summoned from around the globe, apolitical officers who remained silent as their commander-in-chief took the stage and offered this greeting.
You can leave the room. Of course, there goes your rank, there goes your future.
That set the tone for more awkward moments to come, including the president's suggestion that dangerous U.S. cities like those where National Guard are currently deployed should be used as training grounds for U.S. troops.
This is going to be a major part for some of the people in this room. That's a war, too. It's a war from within.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth opened the meeting and ripped into diversity initiatives put in place by previous administrations.
No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions.
Vermont Democrat Peter Welch said the meeting was unnecessary and a bad idea.
It's a further effort to politicize the military. It's very, very alarming. There is no reason to bring all of these people at enormous taxpayer expense to Washington to get a pep talk.
Hegseth told the audience they could disagree with him, but
the words I'm speaking today are making your heart sink. Then you should do the honorable thing and resign.
This month was really a testing ground for me, a way to see if I really can use those hours that I would spend at work for something better, addressing the situation as seriously as it should be addressed, but also using my own skills and knowledge and resources to stand on business, to continue being that fire alarm, and, if needed, be the firefighter who's going to come in, find you at your desk, and lift you up and carry you out of the burning building. I have been doing a lot of reading and writing and creating. I got to contribute to a newsletter that I almost didn't have time for, but without a full-time gig, I have time to write for it. I also got to go visit John Brown's fort in Harper's Ferry, and I got to pay respects, create a memorial. I got to go to the courthouse in Charlestown where John Brown was tried.
I have another objection. And that is, it is unjust that I should suffer such a penalty. Had I interfered in behalf of the rich, the powerful, the intelligent, the so-called great, or in behalf of any of their friends, either father, mother, brother, sister, wife, or children, or any of that class, it would have been all right. And every man in this courtroom would have deemed it an act worthy of reward rather than punishment.
So, Mother Jones, unfortunately, you were wrong. They do now have monuments commemorating the judge that convicted John Brown. This is also the same courthouse where Bill Blizzard and Frank Keeney and Fred Mooney and so many others stood trial for their actions at the Battle of Blair Mountain. I got to see the plaque they put in just 2 years ago. Of course, it gives very little context, but it's there. If nothing else, it will sow an idea.
The miners are just saying, how long can this go on? What happened was miners just walked off the job. It wasn't the union that told them to do it, they just did it. But the union was trying to take control of this before it got out of hand, so they called for a big meeting on the Capitol steps, and they basically made a list of demands to the governor. And the first one was to end the mine guard system. The governor didn't respond, and so the union organizers told the miners, the only way that you're going to get your rights in this state is through the barrel of a rifle. Make no mistake, this was not a miners' army, this was a citizens' army. There were farmers, there were doctors, there were lawyers, there were people who were just tired of living under the mine guard system. They didn't see this as a fight against Uncle Sam. This was a fight against the coal companies, against state and local governments, and folks who had more or less sold them out.
The Battle of Blair Mountain was about reestablishing the Bill of Rights. But at the end of the day, they didn't win the battle. They may have outfought the coal companies, but they couldn't outfight the federal government. And because the federal government came down on the side of the coal companies, the power establishment, the power structure in West Virginia remained.
There's an old Union song. Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
You want to be treated like men? You want to be treated fair? Well, you ain't men to that coal company. Your equipment, like a shovel, a gondola car, a hunk of wood brace. They'll use you till you wear out or you break down or you're buried under a slate fall, and then they'll get a new one. And they don't care what color it is or where it comes from. It doesn't matter how much coal you can load or how long your family has lived on this land. If you stand alone, you're just so much shit to those people.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on? They say in Harlan County there are no neutrals there. You'll either be a Union man or a thug for J.H. Blair. Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
You think this man is your enemy?
Oh, workers, can you stand it? Oh, tell me
Huh?
how you can. Will you be
This is a worker.
lousy scab, or will you be a man?
Any union keeps this man out ain't a union. It's a goddamn club. Now they got you fighting white against colored, native against foreign, holler against holler. When you know there ain't but two sides of this world, them that work and them that don't. You work, they don't. That's all you got to know about the enemy.
Rich man and me don't have very much in common. Coal operator and me don't have very much in common. Me and a coal miner got something in common. We're drinking the same shitty water. We're breathing the same shitty air. We're dealing with the same fly rock rolling down and hitting our neighbors' houses. That's happening to everyone. When we're there and we're having this resistance of folks in the coal fields and the folks in the mine site won't be extreme, but even if it's extreme, realize that they're feeling that same fear of the future as what we are. They're oppressed by the same mechanisms and they feel it in the exact same way. I'm privileged. I've met people like Junior, I've met people like Glenn, I've met all of these really powerful people who taught me the ability to resist and taught me the ability to speak up and speak truth to power. Resist the coal industry. Not everybody has had that chance. Not everybody has that privilege. I was born middle class. My folks have made it all right for about the majority of their lives. I have a choice. My choice isn't I gotta go to a coal mine or I can't feed my kids. That's not a dichotomy that I have to operate in.
Those regulations protect your life. They protected my husband. They protected my father. And I'm here today with my husband and got to keep my dad for all those years. They were the hard workers, the coal miners that you were talking about. I love you guys. And I'm not going to see you as my enemy just because they want to make you think that I am. I'm asking you for West Virginians, no matter what county you are, let's start learning about each other. Let's start fighting for each other. And let's ask our politicians to quit getting on the coal side and start getting on our side. That's all I've got to say.
But that scarceness, that like feeling that something ain't right, that feeling like we have to resist this force, systems of power divert that energy until they get pissed off out of out-of-state tree huggers. The thing is, that energy is still there. People are pissed off here, and they damn well should be. And it's only a matter of time until the people of Appalachia figure out who we need to be pissed at. My grandfather was a union coal miner for 27 years. When your parent, the person who raises you, has been in those struggles like my grandpa was in Blackberry Creek, fought the scabs all his damn life. Having that union background, that resistance is that same natural process. It's as natural as breathing, it's natural as walking.
If you work 20 years in a union mine, you can come out with health care, you can come out with a pension. These things that we have, and they were given to us. I've done very little fighting. Compared to what was handed to me, you know, we just basically let it get away, you know.
It's the people who's blowing up the mountains or the people who are kicking people's out of their homes in New Orleans. They're the people who's fracking in Pittsburgh. It's the same people. It's that same forces of power that causes that oppression. Regardless of that background, when you fight oppression anywhere, you fight oppression everywhere. And we take that power back and we stand up and we resist. And when I look around, I see that every single one of you has that like will and has that drive to resist. And like I said, it's an honor.
You're gonna tell us to turn the other cheek, Joe?
And that's what I want to do. I've been describing it as I want to be the Steve Irwin of labor history. Already, I keep talking to people and I bring up Mother Jones and they say, I've heard the name, but I don't really know anything about it, or, oh, isn't that a newspaper? This was a woman who got 500,000 people rallied behind her for labor rights, who led a march on Washington, 70 years old, on foot, 100+ years ago. If she can do that with what she had, why can I not do the same with what I have? Her job was to go and organize, to get people agitated and out of this complacency that stops you from doing what needs to be done, from demanding that you are treated with respect and dignity. And that's what I want to do. And then the last question that keeps coming up when I tell people about this is, well, that's great for you, but what do you want the rest of us to do? Stop, just for a moment, maybe even right now. Take a moment to pause. Look honestly at your life. Ask yourself, if someone is to ask me about this time 20 years from now, am I going to be able to tell them something I'm proud of? Or am I going to tell them something that I'm ashamed of? My revolution is creating art that remembers history and brings history to today, especially the people's history, labor history, the intersection of history that has been forgotten. That's what I'm doing. That's what I value. That is what I can do right now, so that if I am alive in 10 years, if I am still here in 10 years, I don't regret not doing enough. And I can't tell you what that looks like for you. You have to come to that decision. I can't tell you what to do. You are the one who needs to take a personal inventory and make the decision not only as to what you're willing to do, but what you're capable of doing. And you're capable of a lot more than you think. And if you find yourself coming back to these questions of fear, read. There is a peaceful way to go about revolution, and that is through reading. That is through learning. That is through engaging with your community and learning its history and learning its people, both the people who are here today and the people who used to be there. You've got to make tomorrow out of what you have today. What can you make? And if you feel hopeless, and if you feel lost, and you think, I don't know if I can do anything, then read. Just start there. So going forward, if you want to support me, if you think I'm a crazy lady, which you're not wrong, but you like my gumption, consider supporting me on Patreon. Consider supporting me on Ko-fi. Follow any of my accounts, or share them, or just listen. Because if I can just help one person wake up, then that's worth it. Because once you've woken up, you don't go back to sleep. And you make sure that everyone else who is sleeping in this burning house wakes up too.
It was after the other flood, and we was fixing the yard, and he saw the little hollow there, and he said, Carol, I'm gonna buy this. I said, well, if the water gets up, it's gonna wash it, you know. And he said, he brought it home, and he planted it right there. And when the flood come this time, that's the only thing standing.